Louie Tee. Welcome to the 2018 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where your man Louie Tee aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2018 NFL Draft using our baseball grading scale. Single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, as we cannot tell how these players are going to pan out. And I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so we'll get a score for each and every single player selected in said team's draft. We'll apply bonuses when necessary, divide by the number of picks, which will yield us an overall grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the series picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer, are in total control, as this is the You Pick format. Simply be the first to leave a comment in the comment section of this and future videos in this series stating two things: the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. Some examples would be Jags next, Jaguars next, Jacksonville. You get my drift, you get the picture. Be as precise and concise as you can be, because you want to be first. Speaking of which, the next team up in the series is none other than the Jacksonville Jaguars. Duval! That's right, the Jaguars are up next in this series, and it's amazing. A couple of years ago in the draft, I want to say it was like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, the Jags were still a bad football team, and they were on the up and up, and you know, Jags every year are the hot trendy team, along with like the Detroit Lions, and there are a couple of other teams. This is the year this team, fill in the blank, is going to rise up. And I said, look, even though they had a top 5 pick, I said, this is a luxury pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And people laughed and criticized me, like, how can it be a luxury pick? They're picking in the top 5. They need help. And I'm like, you look at that roster, there's not a lot of things they absolutely need. You could say the same thing about this draft. With Paul Posluszny hanging it up, they could use an inside linebacker. But outside of that, yeah, the receiver position was a little bleak. But you're like, hey, look, they tried some things in free agency. We'll see if they work or not. Most notably, they went out and got the receiver from the Indianapolis Colts that I really like, and we'll see if he can stay healthy. That's been one of his biggest issues in the league. But in any event, he said, look, man, they've got a really good roster. And the one thing you couldn't allow them to really do in this draft was get more dominant defensive players, because they've already got enough of them. And that's exactly what they were able to do. And I don't know how they were able to do this, but yet they come away with more dominant players that's going to keep this defense young and talented for years to come. It's amazing that they got their hands on the players that they did. I absolutely love what they did in the first 3 rounds in this draft. And hell, if you look at what they did overall in this draft, it's a pretty damn good job by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Could they have used another corner? They lose Colvin in the offseason and free agency? Maybe, but again, those things will figure itself out. Bottom line is they're going to get pressure on the quarterback. They're going to stop the run, and they got guys that can help them do that in this draft again. So let's jump into what GM Dave Caldwell, who has done just a magnificent job of building this roster via free agency and the draft. He did it again here with this draft as we jump into the first round, 29th overall selection, defensive lineman out of Florida, Taven Bryant. So the first selection of this Jacksonville Jaguars draft. This may be one of my favorite players in this entire draft class. You know, there's always guys that catch your eye when you're watching tape. Didn't know much about him going into the process. This guy's a one-year wonder in terms of production. You look at what his body of work is, and you don't see a lot other than 2017. So easy to miss this guy on the radar. But I'll tell you what, he plays the game the way it's supposed to be played. And I think that his ceiling may be the best of any defensive lineman in this draft. That's saying a lot, because there are some talented defensive linemen in this draft, but he may be the most talented when it's all said and done. And just flat out, the nickname that he was given at Florida tells you just how highly they think of this kid. They called him J.J. Watt at Florida, and for good reason. This guy is explosive and dynamic and has the ability. I'm not saying he has the ability to put up a 20-sack season like J.J. Watt did, but he's got the ability to really wreak havoc from the interior offensive line positions. And this guy is the quintessential penetrator, one gap penetrator up the field. I watched this guy beat double teams. I watched this guy go sideline to sideline making tackles. He hustles. He can get pressure on the quarterback. He can stop the run. Plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Knows where the ball carrier is. Very aware of what's going on around him. Just a treasure to watch. And so let's jump into Taven Bryan and why I think this guy's sky is the limit, and how I'm just so surprised the Jaguars were even able to get their hands on him at 29. I thought a team like Atlanta would jump all over this guy, and I was wrong. So 6'5", 291 pounds stands Taven Bryan. This is a guy that had 10.5 tackles for loss, 6 of them, and that's in his career. Again, remember I said the numbers aren't going to jump out and grab you in terms of his career numbers, but everything in 2017 was on the up and up, and that's why you've got to feel like this guy's on the rise and he's on the come. He's coming. You've got to feel that way. Pause. But 6 of them were in 2017, 2 forced fumbles in his career, both of which came in 2017. This is a guy with 5.5 career sacks, 4 of which came in 2017. Again, these numbers don't blow you away, but when you watch the tape, you see a guy that is starting to become the player that a lot of people thought he could be while at Florida, and he's starting to shape and mold himself into one hell of a football player. His measurables at 6'5", 291, with the way he moves, that is just outstanding size for the position. And to line a 6'5" guy up next to a guy that's like 6'7", 6'8", that's you almost feel like you're cheating and you're stealing. It's going to be tough for quarterbacks to be able to see over that interior defensive line in Jacksonville. And to make matters worse, both of those guys are lightning quick for their size off the snap. Athleticism, I just talked about his quickness off the snap, 4'9", 840. A guy running a sub-5 at damn near 300 pounds. His explosiveness off the snap may be his biggest attribute and his greatest trait to date. When you watch this guy fly off the snap, it's almost as if he knows the snap count. Doesn't give interior offensive linemen opportunities to get to him. He's able to beat them to the spot so that they're playing from behind the rep instead of getting able to get set and get their hands on Taven Bryan. And it just puts them at a very distinct disadvantage before they even really get a chance to get into their set. So his quickness and athleticism is on full display in a number of games. I mean, you just turn on any tape from 2017 and you see this guy flash. It's so hard not to. I don't even have to tell you who Taven Bryan is. You're going to find out within the first 5 to 6 plays of the game who this guy is, because he's going to flash immediately. And the Texas A&M game for me was an eye-opener. It was the game that I really said, wow, this guy has some juice. He has something. And then every game subsequently after, I was like, this guy he's legit. And so, and it's that athleticism, that quickness that made me say that this guy has the tools to be a dominant player at the next level. And then this next pro solidifies it, because I talk about this all the time. A lot of guys don't come to the league equipped with the ability to use their hands, but Taven Bryan does exactly that. A great hand usage. And my favorite move that he uses is one that not a lot of guys use. I call it gas. And it's easy gas from him. It's called the grab and snatch technique. And defensive linemen have this tool in their repertoire. They're one of the few players on the field that's actually allowed to hold and get away with it. And in this particular situation, it's okay to hold. You grab an offensive lineman and you snatch him. And he does that better than anyone I've seen come out in quite some time. His grab and snatch is outstanding. And what a grab and snatch does is it gives you the opportunity to propel yourself forward and give you momentum going towards your target. And so if you get and not a lot of guys are strong enough and capable of pulling this off, but if you have the ability to grab and snatch, it's a great tool to use, because it thrusts you towards the quarterback. It gives you an extra step, almost like a boost of energy, a speed boost towards your target, whether it's the running back, the quarterback, and he does it exceptionally well. Has a nice rip move and a swim. Both are with quickness. Both happen lightning fast, so that when he is able to beat the guy off the snap with quickness, he finishes the job. And a lot of guys don't do that. They may win initially, but they don't use their hands to continue to finish completing the ass whooping that they're delivering to that offensive lineman. You got to finish winning with hands. He does that by using either a rip move or a swim to finish off defeating that offensive lineman. Awareness, I talked about him knowing where the football is, knowing where the ball carrier is. There's a play against LSU. Bull rushes the center, Will Clapp, right into the lap of the quarterback. And as he's trying to throw the ball, I was about to call him J.J. Watt. Taven Bryan grabs him by the collar of his jersey and flings him down as he just gets rid of the football, knowing where he is on the field. There's a play against Georgia. He's getting blocked. He's great at stacking and shedding, one of the better defensive linemen in this entire draft at doing so. And the running back, I want to say Sony Michel's coming his way, and he just throws the offensive lineman out of the way and grabs Sony Michel and picks him up and dumps him on his skull. That's the kind of ferocity you get with Taven Bryan. He's aware of his surroundings, knows where he is, knows where the ball carrier is, and knows what he has to do to try to make a play. Point of attack physicality, this guy takes on double teams. He splits double teams. This guy takes on single blockers. He whips single blockers. He's great at the point of attack, and he's going to make plays. And so you got to love what this guy brings to the table from that standpoint. Redirect, for a guy his size, it's amazing to watch him stop and change directions. He's able to do it very fluidly for a guy that's 291 pounds. Ability versus the run, he's outstanding versus the run, and I think he's only going to get better versus the run, because I think he's going to start making more plays on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. Because now you've got to think about this. The guy was talented at Florida, but he didn't have a ton of help on the defensive line. He didn't have a ton of help at the linebacker position. A lot of the good players on that Florida defense, it's in the secondary. So just imagine how much better he's going to be with all the talent that will surround him in Jacksonville. He doesn't have to do everything by himself, yet he's going to be able to do the same thing he was doing at Florida, but with help now. He's not the guy that's going to be the focal point of the offense. He's not the guy that's going to be commanding double teams. He's going to get single up a lot of times, and he's going to whoop some ass. So you've got to feel good about his ability to not only stop the run, but pass rush at the next level. Like I said, 4 sacks in 2017. And like I said, I only think he's going to get better. And he's going to learn from a guy like Calais Campbell, who's going to show him some more moves and some things that he can put in his repertoire. He's around other guys that are uber talented that are going to allow him one-on-one matchups. I just love what this situation holds for Taven Bryan. I just feel like he's going to flourish in this situation in Jacksonville. His motor is incredible. His tackling ability is outstanding as well. Endurance, plays the game like his hair is on fire just about every single snap. His impact on the game is one that is profound, consistently double teamed, and like I said, sometimes he defeats those double teams. There's a sack versus Texas A&M, just splits a double team like a man beast and goes after Kellen Mond and sacks him, and had a stretch there in that Texas A&M game where he just took over, and literally they could not block Taven Bryan in that game. They tried, they could not block Taven Bryan. He was a one-man wrecking crew in that Texas A&M game. He's just constantly in the backfield, either making the running back or the quarterback readjust, having to flush the pocket for the quarterback, having to change their path for the running back. He's a guy that you have to deal with. He gets his hands up in the passing lanes, so he'll deflect passes. He's a menace. He's going to be a hell of an addition, and I honestly don't understand how he got to 29 to the Jaguars. This is stealing for them to play as well as they did, to be at the end of the first round and still get this type of value. Speaks volumes to the level of depth that was in this draft, but also to some teams just really dropping the ball. This guy should have had no business being there for the Jaguars to select. And they didn't need him. It's not like they needed another dominant defensive lineman. This was an opportunity that they saw, that they said, we can't pass up Taven Bryan here at 29. He shouldn't be here, but we're going to take him because he won't be here any longer, because this guy has the ability to be dominant at the next level. In the first round, 29th overall selection, defensive lineman out of Florida, Taven Bryan. You already know what this is.
Hits it high. Hits it deep. It is out of here.
So we move on to the next selection in this Jaguars draft. Second round, 61st overall selection. LSU wide receiver DJ Chark is the next pick. So I've already broken down DJ Chark, so I'm not going to break him down here. I've done that on the Draft Prospects 101 series. So if you're looking for a thorough, extensive breakdown of DJ Chark and what he brings to the table for this Jaguars football team, check out the Louie Tee Network. Go to the playlist section on YouTube on the Louie Tee Network and click on the 2018 Draft Prospects 101 series, and there you will find DJ Chark and the next selection in this Jaguars draft, as I've broken both of them down. I'll tell you this much. This guy brings an element of speed that is rare in this league. He's going to blow by defenders. And I don't think the Jaguars necessarily had an issue with guys being able to stretch the field last year. I thought you had a number of guys that had the ability to do that. You uncovered some gems late in the season with some guys that could run. But he's a guy that brings a little bit of a different flavor. Neither one of those guys last year that could run for you, that stretched the field for you, had size. So now you're getting a guy with size that can run. You're getting a height, weight, speed specimen here in DJ Chark. And he's going to stretch the field. He's going to give Blake Bortles, and they're hoping that he gives them that kind of Allen Robinson feel, a guy that can go up, get the football with his size and length, a guy that can win one-on-one matchups, and a guy that can scare the hell out of the defense with just pure unadulterated speed. That's what DJ Chark brings to the table. And if he's anything like Allen Robinson or Allen Hurns in terms of being able to win, then this team is going to get a gem here in the second round. I've got my reservations about what this guy is and what he'll provide for this Jaguars offense, but there's no doubt that this guy is talented. And having played at LSU with stinking-ass quarterbacks, he's not going to be fazed by the situation in Jacksonville. And I think Blake is on the up and up. We'll see if last year was a fluke or if the light bulb has come on for Blake or not. But nonetheless, DJ Chark going to help this Jaguars offense. He's not a number one wide receiver, I can tell you that much. I still don't think you have one on your roster. We will see what manifests itself with your run game and if that can balance out the offense in terms of the receivers and what you're going to get there. But it's a nice addition here in the second round, 61st overall selection, wide receiver out of LSU. DJ Chark, for me, is here's another stupid steal by the Jaguars in the third round. At this point, it was thievery. It was robbery, and Dave Caldwell needed to be arrested. David Caldwell needed to be in handcuffs after day 2 of the draft. I had walked away, and if you watch my recap of the second day when I was live, I said the Jaguars could have essentially went home after day 2 of the draft. They had already done so much damage in just 3 selections. It was amazing what they had come away with, and they stayed in the SEC for their first 3 selections. It was amazing the level of talent they had gotten in just 3 picks, and being in the back end of each round to get the kind of value they were getting was just insane. And here's another guy where I said, what is this guy doing here? Even more so than Taven Bryan. I was surprised. I was floored. I kept asking myself, is something wrong with him? Did something go wrong? Did I miss something? Why is this guy sitting here in the third round? But he was there, the 93rd overall selection in the third round. Alabama safety Ronnie Harrison is the selection for the Jacksonville Jaguars. In Ronnie Harrison, you're essentially talking about one of the most talented players from a height, weight, speed perspective in this entire draft, and yet he's sitting here for them in the third round, and it's amazing just how this guy got to them and how he wasn't already taken off the board, and he played at a very, very talented university at Alabama, where they're always stacked and loaded on defense. Well, he's going from one of the most stacked and loaded defenses in all of college football to one of the most stacked and loaded defenses in all of the National Football League. And so he'll be right at home, and the talents that he brings to the table and his skill set, and I'm not going to break him down as I mentioned when I was talking about DJ Chark. I've already broken down Ronnie Harrison and what he brings to the table. The fact that this guy was sitting here and the things that he brings to the table fits right in with what the Jaguars do defensively. Fast, physical, and very versatile. There's an abundance of riches in Jacksonville defensively, and they simply added elite talent to the elite talent that they already had. I don't really know what teams are going to do with this Jaguars defense if they're able to stay relatively healthy like they did last season. Adding pieces like Bryant and now Harrison to a defense that already was loaded, this is ridiculous. And the value in this pick in the third round is incredible. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. In the third round, 93rd overall selection, safety out of Alabama, Ronnie Harrison. Again, you already know what this is.
Hits one high. Hits it deep. It is out of here.
So we keep this party going. Fourth round, 129th overall selection, offensive lineman out of NC State, Will Richardson is the selection. So this might be the most surprising of the picks in the draft in terms of what I went into the pick thinking and what I actually got and saw. This guy's really good. And I wasn't expecting him to be as good as he was. It isn't always pretty with Will Richardson, but boy, is it effective. He doesn't get beat very often. And he's really good in the run game. I've heard talk of this guy potentially kicking inside the guard. My thing is, why? Why move this guy to guard when it's so hard to find quality tackles in this league? Why would you waste a guy that I think can play tackle at the next level and move him inside the guard? If this guy is what I think he could be at the next level, there's no reason to move this guy inside whatsoever. You keep him outside, and even if he can't get on the field and you feel like you want to do what the Dolphins did with Laramie Tunsil and just kick this guy inside until the tackle spot becomes available, knock yourself out. But for me, Will Richardson is a right tackle in this league all day long, twice on Sundays. So from that perspective, I love what this guy brings to the table. But there's some off-the-field things here that should concern you, especially if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. You've dealt with something similar to this before. It's kind of surprising that they went down this road again. I applaud them, actually, for doing this. If it blows up in their face, then it won't be something to applaud them for. But I applaud them for going after a guy who has been suspended twice for the same infraction. One that this Jaguars organization knows all too well. He's been suspended on multiple occasions for DWI, okay, driving while intoxicated. Was suspended for 2 games in 2017 for that infraction. The first time he was suspended was back in 2015 for the infraction. So he may have a little bit of a problem. They're going to have to make sure that he's good there. Obviously, they've vetted him. They've talked to him. Hopefully those issues are behind him. We all know about the Jaguars and their history with a first-round pick that had issues with things of that nature. So it's really surprised they went down that road again. But, again, I applaud them for doing that because this guy is very talented. And hopefully he's able to get his life on the straight and narrow and this issue doesn't continue to happen. But 31 starts in 36 games for Will Richardson. And 3 of those games that he missed were due to suspension. 35-inch arms at 6'6". So obviously we start with his measurables and how those are off the charts. at 6'6", 306 with 35-inch arms. This guy has the look of an NFL left tackle, but he doesn't always use his length. We'll talk about that a little bit later on to his advantage, as he should. But nonetheless, athleticism is the next pro. 5'2", 40, which doesn't jump off the page at you, but 31.5-inch vert for a guy over 300 pounds. And then his movement skills are so fluid. He's so smooth. He's an easy mover, especially when he's getting to the second level and climbing to the second level. His ability to get up to that linebacker and wall off a defender is huge in the run game. And they loved running behind Will Richardson, and for good reason. He was outstanding for them at NC State, which is part of the reason why he came out a year early, because he was so good for them. If had he went back to school, you might be talking about one of the better tackles going into the 2019 NFL draft. But in any event, technique, really good kick slide. I think I didn't expect him to have such a good kick slide. It's not the fastest kick slide in the world, but it's a very effective kick slide, and he doesn't waste a lot of motion, and it keeps him in front of guys for the most part. I was really surprised, but he doesn't always use his length. And I talked about that earlier, and that leads us to our next pro, but it can be a con at times because of the lack of him using his length. His anchor. He's fine in anchoring, except when he doesn't use his length. And the best example I have is that Florida State game in 2017. Josh Sweat blew him up on 2 occasions in that game, both one at left tackle because he made a switch over the left tackle pre-snap. And for all people out there that just says, hey, put a guy at left tackle when he's always been playing right tackle, it's not that easy. And that, to me, that set told me all I needed to know about his ability to play left tackle at this point. It's a different animal on the opposite side. It's different movement skills. It's different technique. He got blown up off the ball about 4 yards into the backfield, and Josh Sweat literally took him into the running back, who was 5 yards into the backfield, and got a 3 or 4 yard tackle for loss on that particular play. He did the same thing on the right side, and I think that was just a bad set by Will Richardson, but he didn't get his arms extended, and Josh Sweat got into his body. And when you're 6'6" with 35-inch arms, you shouldn't be allowing guys into your body that easily. And he paid for it on that play, got blown up, and again, caused a tackle for loss. So he's got to use his length better in situations like that to keep guys at bay and not allow them into his body where they can do damage to his 6'6" frame. In any event, good balance, redirect, and toughness. His pass blocking ability, it's really solid. And even when he loses a rep, and at NC State, I loved how they protected, especially how guys, they protected outside in. And so his job as the right tackle was to make sure no one beat him around the edge. If a guy wanted to beat him inside, the guard would be sitting there waiting. So it's almost like, hey, I don't have to worry about the inside. If a guy wants to use a quick move inside, he can knock himself out. He just won't beat me to the outside. I know I've got help to my left if I'm at right tackle, because the guard will be in there waiting. So all he had to do really was make sure no one beat him to the outside. And at the next level, it won't be as easy. You won't have guys will have a two-way go of it, so you're gonna have to protect to the inside a little bit better. But he was just fine pass blocking wise. He really didn't allow anyone to buy him to the outside, and if they did get by him, he was able to push them around the pocket. And I'll talk about a play where he was able to recover, and so he used the length to bail himself out. I'll talk about that here in a second. But run blocking ability, I think this is where he really excels and he shines, which is why I think people are mentioning him as a guy that could potentially move inside the guard because he's so good in the run game. I got down in my notes, his ability to combo and down block and also get to the second level is outstanding. And essentially that's where he wins. His combo blocks and his down blocks are just exceptional. But he then peels off of that combo block, gets to the second level, and it's those kick-out blocks that lead to the 14, the 12, the 27, and the 50-yard runs. And when you can get a guy, and they got some explosive backs, especially Nyheim Hines at NC State, when you can get those types of players to the second level, big plays happen. And Will Richardson was a guy that would come off his combo block, and those down blocks would wash guys. And then he would get to the second level, get to the linebacker, kick him out, and all of a sudden now you've taken a play that looked like it was good for 5 to 7. Now it's good for 12 to 14. And with a guy like Nyheim Hines that can stick his foot in the ground and make somebody miss and go off to the races, it could be a 61-yard touchdown run. And that's what Will Richardson brings to the table. So I think the Jaguars love his ability to potentially open up some holes in the run game for a guy like Leonard Fournette. And we all saw how dominant he can be when given some opportunities, whether his time at LSU or his rookie campaign going over 1,000 yards for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Will Richardson's ability to block in the run game is, I think, something that may get him on the field sooner rather than later, even if it's in some 3 tight end sets where they decide to stick an extra tackle on the field and that guy happens to be Will Richardson. So we'll see what happens with him. But his ability to finish, he doesn't finish all the time. You know, his guys sometimes will be able to get off of his block. But there was one play that I saw that tells me that he's got the ability to finish and has a little bit of a nasty streak in him. I watched him take a Clemson linebacker all the way to the sideline. Literally take this man and walk him all the way to the sideline, out of the picture. I was like, damn, didn't know you could do that. So that ability and that nasty streak, it is in him. He's just got to play with it a little bit more. His awareness is good. I saw him make some very smart plays, you know, in terms of pass protecting and picking up a guy and then getting another guy that's coming off the edge screaming. So really good awareness, picking up TE games and things of that nature. Recovery. This was the play that I was referencing earlier. He had a play against FSU's Brian Burns, who's a small, slender, explosive rusher off the edge, number 99, flying off the edge. When he times up the snap, guy's hard to get a hand on because he's so damn fast. And he comes flying off the edge and really times the snap up well. And Richardson is like, whoa, he's kind of taken aback by how fast this guy gets off the ball. And guy's 2 steps around him before he really even gets out of his stance. And he's able to use his length. He dives and pushes Brian Burns around the pocket, and it's that length, those 35-inch arms that come to save him in that instance. And so he's got the ability to recover with that length. His availability, like I said, he missed 5. He played in 36 games total in his career at NC State, and he started 31 of them. And really, he missed some games due to suspension. And so he had an illness in 1 year where he missed a game or 2, but he's really relatively durable. And so he's a guy that you really like. There's not a lot not to like here with Will Richardson, man. I walked away thoroughly impressed, almost surprised that he was here in the 4th round for a tackle draft that wasn't that great. A guy like Will Richardson you'd think would have come off the board sooner, but some teams may have been scared away by those DUIs. I mean, that's not something to play around with, and I think that's part of the reason he fell in this draft. Is you look at the suspensions and some of the issues he's had off the field, and some teams may not have wanted anything to do with that, but this is a good football player getting here in the 4th round, 129th overall selection, offensive lineman out of NC State. And if I'm the Jaguars, I don't move this guy from tackle until he proves to me that he can't. He's a tackle at the next level. In any event, Will Richardson for me is. So we move to the 6th round for this Jaguars draft, 203rd overall selection, quarterback out of Nebraska, Tanner Lee is the selection. So this is a interesting pick to say the least. Tanner Lee is an enigma. If you've ever watched him play, he'll make a gorgeous throw and then he'll make a bonehead throw. And a lot of turnovers in his career, a lot of shots taken. A lot of people think he transferred from Tulane, so he played the first 2 years of his career at Tulane and then transferred to Nebraska, and a lot of people think he transferred from Tulane because he was getting his ass whooped. At one point at Tulane, he sustained a concussion, a separated shoulder, and a broken finger. So he's getting his ass whooped. But then I watched him at Nebraska, and I said, I understand why you're getting your ass whipped. Now, the offensive line may not have been that great for the Green Wave, but I understand why he's getting his ass whooped, because there are some flaws here with Tanner Lee that allows him to take vicious shots while in the pocket. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but you're looking at a guy that is just flawed, period. And I don't know if you can fix what's broken with him. And so we'll see. He may be a career backup. I don't see starting potential in Tanner Lee, but 54.8 career completion percentage, that is terrible, all right? 46 touchdowns in his career, over 37 INTs. That's a 1.2 to 1 ratio. That is disgusting, okay? For me, 4 to 1 is where you should be in college. Like, that's an acceptable, really good number. 28 over 7, you'll take that. You know, but a 1.2 to 1 ratio, for every 1.2 passes, you're throwing a pick. That's egregious. So, or excuse me, for every 1.2 touchdown you throw, you're throwing a pick. That's egregious. 2017 was his best season, so that's a good thing. He probably would have been better off going back to school, but with the way he was getting hit and the changes at Nebraska, maybe he didn't want to be a part of that. Anyway, 57% completion percentage in 2017. Again, still not up to par, especially in college. 23 touchdowns over 16 interceptions. Again, not the ratio you're looking for, obviously. And 3,143 yards. So let's talk about Tanner Lee and what he brings to the table. 6'4", 218 pounds. So good size for an NFL quarterback. Arm talent. Look, he can spin it. We're not questioning his ability to throw the football. He's got arm talent. So those two things, measurables, arm talent, those are just fine and more than good enough for the next level. It's everything else that you start to question with this guy. His athleticism, he's a sneaky athlete. When he escapes the pocket, if it's 3rd and 4, he can get you 5 and slide. He's a guy that can move around enough to be dangerous. Throwing mechanics, he doesn't throw over the top. It's not like a sidearm release or anything. He's not Matthew Stafford, but it's a little drop down for a guy that is 6'4", that should be throwing over the top. Gets a lot of balls batted because the football comes out kind of 3/4, I guess. A little higher than that, but it's still not over the top. And I think because of that, there's a lot of batted balls for a guy that's not 6'1", 6'2". You know, I see guys at 6'1", 6'2" that don't get as many balls batted as Tanner Lee does. So his throwing mechanics aren't the greatest. Footwork, played in a pro-style offense at Nebraska, so has the footwork down for a 3, 5, or 7-step drop. So that's good and something that I think the Jaguars liked. Played in an offense where they went bootleg, play action, fake, and he was under center. So those all translate to the next level. Accuracy and deep ball are, to me, equal because he can be erratic at both. He threw a beautiful deep ball against Penn State, dropped it right in the bucket. But to me, those are too few and far between. He misses more than he hits on the deep ball, but in his short to intermediate game, he'll hit and then he'll be erratic. And a lot of times it's just bad decision making, which we'll get to a little bit later on. But nonetheless, moxie and poise, he's got that in spades because he takes so many shots. It's easy as a quarterback to shell up and to really just go into a ball when you hit as much as this guy does. And it's hard. I mean, this guy takes some shots. Boy, he takes some shots in the pocket when you watch him. Like, God damn, how did you get up from that one? But it takes poise and moxie to get up from the shots he takes and keep fighting and delivering the football and standing in the pocket, knowing you're going to take another shot. Leadership intangibles, durability. He's a guy that, like I said, took an ass whooping. He took some beatings in college and just kept on going. Processing speed, I think he processes things quick enough. It's just that at the end of his processing, I don't like the decisions that come of his processing speed. But nonetheless, we'll keep on moving. Timing and anticipation, I think, especially in the underneath short to intermediate game, his timing and anticipation are fine within the process of the play. So From that, we go to his cons, and there are quite a few of them here. You start with his pocket awareness. This may be the thing that annoys me the most because it's the lack of pocket awareness that leads to some of his bad decisions. He just doesn't feel, and this is what I put in my notes, he doesn't possess it in terms of pocket awareness. He doesn't feel the rush, takes some vicious hits. I just don't think he feels the rush enough. He doesn't have that internal clock of let me get the hell out of Dodge or let me get rid of the football. It's just amazing to watch this guy stand in the pocket and not know someone's coming, not feel. And there's an innate feel that you have as a quarterback that there's some pressure coming. I might not know from exactly where, but there's some pressure coming. Something's looming. I probably should get the hell out of here or get rid of the football. And he'll just stand there, and man, does he get walloped for it. He doesn't feel. And there's so many hits that almost were fumbles or almost were interceptions or were interceptions because he didn't get rid of the football, and as he's throwing the football, he's getting hit. And it's not like immediate pressure off the snap where you're like, he didn't have a chance. That's not his fault. There's some times where you're like, bro, get rid of the ball or do something. Don't stand there and take this shot. His pocket awareness is non-existent. Pocket mobility, he can escape. I've seen him get away, but he rarely does. He usually doesn't get away from pressure, so his pocket mobility doesn't really benefit him all that much. His accuracy on the move is not ideal. It's almost as if his decision-making diminishes when he moves out of the pocket. At one point, I said, it's like he loses his effing mind when he starts to move. It's like he thinks he's got some kind of superpower or something with his right arm. When he starts to move out of the pocket, I can get it in there. Like, no, bro, there's two defenders there. You can't zing it in there. It's not going to just go through one of these guys like they're transparent or something. It's not just going to go through their body and go to your target. You can't throw that football there. You can't do it. And there's something to be said about protecting points. When you're in a red zone, you can't do dumb shit with the football. You've got to make smart decisions, and I just don't see that with Tanner Lee. He doesn't value the football. He doesn't value possession of it, and he doesn't value where he is in proximity to taking chances. It's okay to take a chance on 3rd and 9 from your own 27 if you're throwing a football 50 yards down the field. It's like a punt. It's okay to take a chance there. It's not okay to take a risky chance into a tight window when you're at the 17 on 3rd and 8 and it's two defenders standing right there and one of them can bat it into the air and it can get picked off in the red zone. It's not okay to do that. Anyway, the last con is his decision making. It's terrible. Or as Charles Barkley would say, it's terrible. All right? He trusts his arm way too much. And he's got a strong arm, and he can make some tight window throws. But in that regard, he's like Jay Cutler, where you just say, what the hell are you doing, man? You can't throw the football there. And some of his interceptions, when you watch him, you're like, bruh, what were you thinking? What did you see? What possessed you to think that was a good throw? You know, I just watched him a couple of times, and I said, bruh, you need to wash your face and get your mind right. You thought that was a good decision, man. What the hell is wrong with you? You can't throw that football there. You know, late on outcuts, throwing right where a defender is, two guys standing right there eyeballing him, and he tries to zing it in there. Like, bruh, I don't get it. And that's, you understand why the touchdown to interception ratio is what it is when you watch him on tape. It's frustrating because he has talent, but the decision making is very flawed with Tanner Lee. And so, look, he had a baller at receiver that really bailed him out in Stanley Morgan Jr. If you haven't heard the name, I'm telling you, Stanley Morgan Jr. is going to be a stud and a guy that will go high in the draft if he stays healthy. That guy can play some football. But in any event, Tanner Lee has some tools, and I don't know if he makes this roster. I liked Austin Allen when he came out of college more than this guy, so I'm anxious to see what Tanner Lee does. But in any event, in the 6th round, 203rd pick overall, quarterback out of Nebraska, Tanner Lee for me is look, he's got talent, and that's why he's not a single. Simple as that. He's got some tools to work with. We'll see what happens at the next level. Speaking of tools to work with at the next level, this is exactly the type of pick you make in the 7th round. 230th overall selection. Linebacker, edge rusher / fullback out of Wisconsin. Leon Jacobs is the selection. This is the pick I'm most intrigued by in this Jaguars draft because there's something here to Leon Jacobs, and the raw ability that this guy has is off the charts. It's all about harnessing what this guy does and brings, giving him reps, which I don't know if he'll be able to get or not. But with more experience, more reps, more opportunities, this guy could be something at the next level because his ability, if harnessed and molded into what could be a hell of an edge rusher, this guy could be something. At 6'1", 246 pounds, 26 reps of 2 1/4. Man, is this guy cut, man. This guy is ripped. Foot injury caused him to miss all but 4 games of 2015, and that was the year that changes the path of his collegiate career. He was going to start at inside linebacker. Had he started and stayed healthy, maybe it's a different path for Leon Jacobs, but he gets injured. Other guys emerge. He comes back. He's now basically a sub. He's a guy off the bench that is able to be a reserve linebacker instead of a starter. And so he had to wait his turn until Vince Beagle and TJ Watt and all those guys left for the NFL. And then he got an opportunity to get on the field as an outside linebacker. But before then, this guy was doing everything he could, moonlighting as a fullback, doing whatever he could to get on the football field. So got his opportunity in 2017 as an edge rusher and really took full advantage of it. Career stats, 6 sacks, 15.5 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, a few PBUs in there, and 1 forced fumble and recovery for which he scooped and scored. And all of these numbers that I'm about to give you in 2017 were all career highs. So go figure, more attempts and more opportunity, more numbers for Leon Jacobs. 3.5 sacks. He had 6 in his career, so 3.5 of them coming in 2017. 2 INTs. He had 3 in his career. So again, big numbers in 2017 for him. 9.5 tackles for loss, 15.5 for his career. 3 PBUs and a forced fumble and fumble recovery for a touchdown, all in 2017. So he made the most of his opportunity in 2017, which is what got him selected in the 7th round. Measurables at 6'1", 246. You could use a guy like this. This guy can run. Speaking of running, 4'4'8" at 246 pounds. He looks like a Jacksonville Jaguar defender. Seriously, with this kind of athleticism and the way this guy is built, he would fit right into an aggressive, fast, physical, flying Jags defense. 34.5-inch vert to go along with the 10-1 broad. The guy is dripping and oozing with athleticism. Pause. So just know what this guy brings to the table. Explosiveness. I got off the charts in my notes. Just a big ball of energy. When this guy lines up in a 2-point stance off the edge and just goes up the field, guys have to do everything in their power just to push him around the pocket. Now, ultimately, because he's such a newbie and he's so green as a pass rusher, they don't have to do anything other than just push him around the pocket. But it's still a task in itself because he's so explosive. He's 2 steps by the tackle before they realize, the hell was that blur, that red blur that just went by me, and they realize it's Leon Jacobs, and they got to turn around and dive just to push him around the pocket. But they usually get him around. But still, when he learns how to turn that edge, how to finish defeating that block by using hands and swatting down that attempt of the tackle to try to get hands on him, when he figures out some things, he could be dangerous as a situational pass rusher right off the bat. Awareness, or hand usage, I should say. These are all cons, so I'll come back to those. Setting the edge. He can set the edge at 6'1", 246. He can set the edge, a physical edge. He can redirect. Like I said, very explosive and athletic, so he can change directions very fluidly. Ability versus run, he's solid. Not going to necessarily stack and shed guys, but he's solid. Like I said, he'll hold up his end of the bargain in the run game. Tackling ability, he's good in that department. Really solid in the coverage game. Watched him with a nice zone drop versus FAU, where he's able to come underneath a pass, and the guy was going to catch it, and on a third down for a first down, and he lights him up, and it's incomplete. And just reading the quarterback's eyes and kind of drifting and dropping right underneath, and boom. Maybe down the road with more experience, that's an interception instead of a pass breakup. But nonetheless, that was a nice drop. Zone drop, that is. Motor, he hustles hard. Hustles hard, okay? So his motor is unquestioned. Endurance is solid as well. Solid impact on the game, does so many different things, whether he's on the offensive or defensive sides of the football. So there's a lot that he brings to the table from that standpoint. You go to his cons quickly. Hand usage, doesn't use them nearly enough. At times doesn't use them at all, but I saw him use them once to defeat a block in his last collegiate game versus Miami, so maybe the light bulb is starting to come on. If he can start to use his hands a little bit more, there may be something here with Leon Jacobs as a pass rusher. Awareness. This is only here because of the lack of opportunities. Put down in my notes, lacking in that department. Experience will remedy that. He's over-aggressive at times. Like, he'll chase play action fake. He'll chase read option and run out of his position and won't stay home. So he'll be over-aggressive at times. But if he just plays more and can identify what's going on, I think he'll be fine in the awareness department as the time passes and he gets more opportunities to play. Pass rushing ability, put down in my notes, he has no idea what he's doing yet. And that's a good thing. That means he's raw and there's a lot to work with here. But right now he has no clue other than, let me just get up the field as explosively as I can. If they're able to harness what this guy does, and I know I've said that enough times already, they're able to really mold and shape this guy into some type of a pass rusher, give him some tools to work with, a spin. And I saw him do that. Put down in my notes. Did see a spin versus Miami late in that game. So if he's able to integrate some of these little fine tools like a hard outside back inside or swim or spin, this guy could be utterly dangerous at the next level. And finally, pass rush plan. Obviously, there is no plan in place with him. He doesn't know what he's doing. Simple as that. He's just rushing off the edge as fast as he can. And when he learns to figure out some things, how to set tackles up, this guy could be something. This is an intriguing pick. With that kind of explosiveness at that size, there's something here potentially with Leon Jacobs in the 7th round, 230th overall selection, linebacker out of Wisconsin. Leon Jacobs for me is. Finally, the Jags finish up their draft in the 7th round, 247th overall selection, with a specialist out of Mississippi State. Who knew? Punters. There's a lot of these guys going in this draft. We'll add Logan Cook to the list. So the Jags have been here before, and I remember back in the 2012 draft when the Jags selected Brian Anger in the 3rd round. I crucified them for it. You don't spend a 3rd round pick on a punter. You just don't. All right. I don't even want you spending it on a field goal kicker. My theory has always been you don't spend a draft pick on a specialist until the 5th round or later. You want a specialist, really, to me, you should do it in the 6th or the 7th round. I don't have any problems with you taking a kicker, a punter, a long snapper, any of that stuff if you feel the need to do so and you don't have any glaring needs and no guys that fit what you're looking for and you think it's the best value at the pick, knock yourself out. 6th to 7th round, have at it. And so I don't have a problem with this pick. You're moving on from Brad Nortman. Brian Anger has been long gone, so you're going to try your hand at another punter that you're drafting. And this guy is more of a specialist from the sense that he can do it all. He kicked a field goal, so in a pinch, you don't want this guy kicking field goals, but in a pinch, he can. Was a really good punter at Mississippi State. He handled the kickoff duties as well, so there's a lot here with Logan Cook, and displays a big leg. 35 of 50 of his punts went 50-plus yards, which almost a quarter of his kicks, so that's good to know. 74 of his 156 career kickoffs were touchbacks. Almost half of his kicks, so that's also good to know. He's versatile, like I said, can punt, can kick off, and in a pinch can kick field goals for you. So one attempt in his freshman season, let's see how this guy does. You've already released Nortman because you feel good about this guy. So, well, we'll see what Logan Cook brings to the table. He's going to get a chance. And with the way the Jags play defense, if he can do his job adequately, that's going to bode well for the Jacksonville Jaguars. In the 7th round, 247th pick overall, specialist out of Mississippi State, Logan Cook, for me, to wrap up this Jags draft is... So really solid draft turned in by David Caldwell and company, man. Like I said, after the first 3 picks, I was sold. And then you add more value in a guy like Will Richardson in the 4th. I'm intrigued by Leon Jacobs in the 7th. Tanner Lee is an enigma. You may get something out of him. You may not. We'll see. It was a 6th round flyer, so we'll see what happens there. But all in all, this was a tremendous draft to get the kind of value you got in the 1st and the 3rd round. Getting Taven Bryan in the 1st round and then doubling back and staying in the SEC and picking up 2 more players in DJ Chark in the 2nd, but most notably in the 3rd round, still being able to get a guy like Ronnie Harrison is criminal and stealing. And so I thought this draft was really good by the Jaguars, just adding more talent to a defense that really didn't need more talent to be added to it. So let's take a look at what the Jags were able to do in this draft score-wise. So that's going to do it for the Jaguars draft. Remember, if you want to see the Jaguars scores for each individual player, check out the website LouieTeeNetwork.net for all their scores and some other things on the website. So check that out. Also check out the podcast, Louie Tee Network Podcast, on Stitcher, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Music Play, on the website LouieTeeNetwork.net. So check out the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Louie Tee Network on YouTube. And continue to support the channel. Like this video, share it. And thank you for joining me. Plenty more where this came from. So stay tuned to the 2018 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. We're changing the game one video at a time. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Louie Tee Network.